Hey, welcome to Foreigner in the Philippines. I had a message from one of our regular, well, he's a regular subscriber from his comments. And so one of his comments that he came through recently, I don't think he'll mind. That's the dog scratching, okay. Hey, puppy, can you not do that? The simple life in the Philippines. Dog scratching prevents the video. So let me just read parts of this from you, because he's talking about children. And saying, and going obviously on a video that we've made about that shows children in the Philippines. He said, they remind me so much of the kids in Cambodia. He is living in Cambodia. But the kids are dirtier over here depending on where you are. If you go out to the dump, I mean, in other words, the trash dump, or the kids that collect the garbage in the city, they're just filthy dirty. But like you, I don't give money to help the poor. I'm not quite sure how that reads. If you give money, it ends up in someone else's hands and is spent on vices. Not food, clothes, and stuff like that. So he said, I've had kids come up to me in the city and beg for money and tell me they're hungry. So when I say, well, let's go and get something to eat, they get mad at me and run away. I'm paraphrasing now. So the point he's trying to make is that I guess he is seeing kids in the city, and we don't live in the city. We live in out in the country, and so there's a huge difference in the children. That in fact, people have mentioned in their comments, well, the kids don't look as if they're in need. They look very well dressed. In fact, they look quite well off. Here's the difference that I found in the province, which is where we live. We live in Bohol. We live in a small barangay or area called Burgos, and we have a church. Not personally, of course, it's the Foursquare Gospel Church, and my brother-in-law, Pastor Timio, is the pastor there. So it's kind of run by the family, my extended family, and we see the same children there all the time. And one of the things that I observe most of the time when they come to church is that, as I pointed out to this other subscriber who was almost complaining that, wait a minute, these are not badly off children, these are quite well off children, almost as if that was wrong. Every child, I think, the world over, has some kind of, comparatively speaking, Sunday best. I know that in my childhood, my parents weren't rich. We were on the brink of poverty ourselves. We never actually went hungry, but it was fish and chips, I think, at the best. And I'd have to make a visit to the pawn shop to pawn my dad's only jacket, which I think the pawnbroker actually gave us 25 shillings out of pity more than out of the worth of the jacket. So it was a community thing. So children looking good on Sunday, it does not portray the real situation in their home, and very often they come from very, very poor families. Most of the kids that go to our church, which is at various times can range from 60 children to sometimes 110 or 120, and they vary very much in how they turned out, but they are always turned out better than they are at home. Now, very often, as in most of the cases for the kids that come to our church, we've been to almost all of their homes, and we've seen the real thing, and we've seen some of them in rags, and they literally are in rags. It's very sad when you see that, and then when you see that people think that they are well off simply because their Sunday best is quite nice. A lot of the children that turn up at our church have been on our first experiences. We've taken them to Alturas, which is a shopping a store, and they bought a couple of dresses each. They have a definite budget to work to, and then when they've chosen something, they have to come along to Ate Beth, and Ate Beth, Ebeth, has a look at it, and she checks the price on it, because some of these kids are as young as 5 or 6 or 7 years old, and they've never ever actually bought anything of their own choice. So they've got some nice clothes because of that. Also, probably without exception, almost all of the children that come to our church are wearing something that was sent by one of our subscribers. Now, various kids have been adopted by our subscribers, and we are simply the messengers. Once that happens, we're simply the messengers. We're not making any judgment calls at all. We have Tita. She has adopted as her grandfather. She has adopted the blind man, and every month she sends money, and we go down as per her instructions, and we get a box made up of groceries, and then we deliver it to the blind man. There are others. There's Lovely, is a tiny girl who will steal your heart in a second, and she belongs to a family in the secret village in the mountains, and she also has, I think, 3 siblings. I think she has 2 children. Yes, she doesn't have 2 children. She's only about 6 years old, but Lovely has siblings, and I think probably either 2 or 3. One is a young man, and 2 are, let me see, one is a very small child, a boy, and the other one is a girl. So they come. Sometimes these kids are so close that it's difficult to actually it's difficult to decide whether they're sisters or not, because they seem glued to each other, and that's another. It's another thing about children. I guess this video is turning into a talk about children. Somebody recently said, I can't understand how the children that are, some of the children in your videos just won't talk. You know, you ask them a question and they simply won't talk. They don't go like this, they just won't answer you. Now, bearing in mind that I may be asking something that they really are embarrassed about. So there's acute embarrassment, there's acute shyness, and there's an acute, what the Filipino will call a nosebleed, because they're afraid of speaking English. And I think almost without exception, any Filipino can speak better English than they will ever admit. Look at Pastor Timio. Ask him a question and he's tongue-tied. He can actually speak English, but he's incredibly shy about speaking English. So the children are different. It's an intense shyness which is very counterproductive. It really is quite damaging to the child. We made a video tonight where we showed where we showed this small family of girls receiving some groceries, and they were going to take that home, and that was a child that I called a tiny Filipino, tiny Filipina, and the little girl, the older one, was actually holding a cloth to her face like this. And I had, behind the camera, I had to point to her and say, "Get this down." And then Beth saw me do that, and she told the little girl, "Oh, take that away from your face so people can see you. This is not someone who's got some disfigurement. This is a beautiful child, as 99.9% of the children that you see on videos here, not by choice or selection, they're all beautiful kids." So there are differences. There are differences in the way that a child here will receive a gift. Now, very often, some of the things that we've shared, we've taken a box and we've shared, and all that we've done is we've just pulled up on the road in a barangay, and the word gets out very, very quickly, and soon we're surrounded by children. Oh gosh, we have to answer to those who would like everything to be done in a straight line, with everybody absolutely perfectly regimented, and it's not going to happen. And then there are others who remark how incredibly, we just had a conversation, a message about this by someone who said, "I can't believe how good the children are, that the box is there. They could make a grab for it, and they don't seem to do that. They wait patiently." And this is children who sometimes are in rags. On a recent video, we went to what Beth calls a cemetery, the cemetery, and it's not that these kids and families live in the cemetery, it's just that that's the closest site to which we can hang this community. So we went there, and one tiny little girl who was barely 2 years old only had a tiny little slip over her head, which was part of a t-shirt and nothing else. And if you watch the video, you'll hear me say to Beth, "Can we get some clothes on this child?" They don't have very much. Another it showed a young man who actually was literally wearing a rag, a t-shirt that was so torn and ragged as to be just heartbreaking. And we got a t-shirt for him, and that was the one that I felt he had so little that we gave him one of the big toys. Now I got into trouble on that one as well, because it just happened that the biggest, most impressive toy that we had was a gun. So someone said, "You shouldn't be giving out guns." Oh gosh, the thing about political correctness is there's nothing you can say that can't be criticized. It's all up for criticism. So we went to that particular place near the cemetery, and we gave away clothes to kids who literally were standing there in rags. And to this extent, it's sometimes a very bittersweet experience for us, because in one way we're very happy to be able to see the smiles on the children's faces, and in another way we're witnessing just how poor they are, because there's no preparation. There's just us stopping and them running up to see what's happening. So children are different here, and they're different in ways which a Westerner may not be able to understand or have difficulty understanding, and yet in a way which makes them absolutely wonderful. And what you have to do is concentrate on the wonderful, and don't be put off if a child doesn't come out and actually articulate the word "thank you." You have to look at the face and look at the language that's written on the face, and usually that's a state of overwhelm. We showed two little children who received from the karate family, and they received 2 boxes especially for them. This was a family where we said that the mother had lied about having a house. There was a complicated situation where she did have a house, but it was close to her mother, who she had severe relationship difficulties with, and she'd moved in desperation to this tiny little nipa hut right out, literally up in the hills. And we met the little girl and the young man, the boy, very close in age, around 6 or 7. I think the little girl was a lot younger than that. And the karate family had put together a box for each of them, and we even got criticized for that. Why didn't you let them open the box themselves? Well, we're there to show what is happening, and Beth pulling the pieces out and helping the child through the overwhelm, the sheer overwhelm of receiving so many gifts when probably they had never actually been given a gift in their lives. That's how poor some of the people are. Most of the people are that we give stuff to. Well, the karate family didn't give it to us to choose what should be given. So, to these 2 children that were in this tiny little house of the crying woman, I think, or the crying lady, we called her. One of Beth's, well, when she came to us and asked for help, she was always crying, so she got called the crying lady. And she was the parent of these 2 kids. They were completely overwhelmed. And sometimes when somebody does something so enormously kind for you, saying just thank you just doesn't work. And it didn't work for them. And they were overwhelmed, as was their mom, because the karate family had put together a gift package for the mother as well. Incredible. I think it was the karate family that put together a box for Boyette. And Boyette, let me just check on that. Beth,
What?
was that box for the for Boyette?
Karate family.
It was a karate. I thought it was. The karate family had also put together a box for Boyette, and I've talked about this before because it's not just the children that have first experiences, it's me as well. And I watched a group of about 6 little girls, arranging in age around 5 to possibly 7, and they gathered around Boyette. Boyette is a boy who has been blind in one eye from birth, and he is an incredible child because he's so incredibly good-natured, has a $1 million smile, and because he's around all these beautiful little girls, I guess he tends to get overlooked. But the karate family didn't overlook him, and they put together a special box for Boyette. And we watched Boyette receive all of these gifts in a complete state of overwhelm that he didn't know. He no longer knew how to respond. But what was incredible was that this little team of 6 little girls just coincidentally happened to be from Baby Jane's family and friends, or possibly cousins for all I know. But anyway, they're in there, and their joy at watching Boyet receive all these gifts, their joy is without any malice or jealousy or envy. They just loved watching Boyet be spoiled. It was amazing. Now, that little group is the same little group of girls who sit in the front of the truck with me. Yes, I know, it's not America, it's the Philippines. And they sit in the front with me on my Sunday driving job, and they are the ones that plead with me, can we stay for Tanghalige? Tanghalige is another group of kids that I take back to their home in the other direction. Right? One direction goes to Tanghalige, the other goes to Tulang. And really speaking, Baby Jane's little group should go to Tulang. But when I take them and I drop everybody else off, and when I should be dropping off the little girls from Tulang, they say, Tanghalige, Tanghalige. But who can say no? And so we all go off to Tanghalige and we take everybody home there too. And those little girls are the ones that sing to me, and it's a wonderful experience. So there are many first experiences, and some of them are mine. So that's my little chat about kids in the Philippines, based on this one from this comment that I had on the channel. So yes, they're different, they're incredible, they're a joy, they're just wonderful, and there are so many that go to our church every week, and we see them every week and we know them all. As far as the 3 little girls, which is really 4 little girls, as I always say, they are part of a family of 5 children, and the boy, they're one single brother, 4 girls and 1 brother, and the brother is the baby, and he has recently been born just a little while ago, and his mother suffered from postnatal depression. We were very worried about her for a while, and because of that, and because we've been associated with this family for so long, they were our 3rd house, house number 3. When we rebuilt their house, they were house number 3. So we've known these kids a long time, and Angelica has been taking care of her mother. And Angelica is this sweet and lovely child who has stepped into the role of mother for her mother, and she is under instructions that if anything happens that is in need of an adult and there's no one that they can turn to, or if there's any kind of emergency or they need anything, they are to call us. A text to us, Bates and I, will bring immediate help. The little boy, I'm now his godfather. And the girls I've adopted, and I've pledged that I will make sure that they go to school, that they have what they need, and I'll make sure that they have everything that they need. They're my adopted little family, and I'm very happy to do that. It's not a burden, it's a joy to me to be able to make sure that they are fine. So I also pick them up every single week, with the exception of the times, like now that I've said it, next week I think we're going to be away in Thailand. But we will make sure that they get to church by paying a tricycle driver to go down there and pick them up and pick everybody up and take them home again. So we'll take care of them anyway. So this has been a little talk about Filipino kids and how wonderful they are, and you will see all of the same kids if you watch all of the videos about handouts at the church where we do the giveaways. I hate that expression, handouts. I meant giveaways, and you'll see all the same faces all the time. Lovely has been adopted. Lovely from the Secret Village has been adopted by Mina in Cyprus. Adopted. She sends regular gifts, food and clothes and money for clothes, and for us to pass on to that family. That's Mina. And there's also Patch. Patch makes sure that he has pledged, well, he has pledged to make sure that baby Jane, who is the little girl that has that disease of the bones, which means that they break very easily, osteogenesis imperfecta, that's a mouthful, I was lucky to remember it then, but anyway, he makes sure that that little family of, I think, 4 girls and a young boy, also the same, yes, he makes sure that they get vitamins. We buy vitamins every month and we make sure that they get those, and lately we've been giving them milk as well. So all kinds of stuff going on, and all to these kids who are such a joy. So thanks for looking in. This is A Foreigner in the Philippines. Please like, comment, subscribe, share if you wish. Bye for now.